Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of our podcast, MusicaliTea, a show where we dive into the lives of composers. I'm your host, Joycelyn.
And I'm Sarah.
And today we're going to be learning about one of the most known composers of all time, Johann Sebastian Bach, and the time that he got arrested. So this week we actually have a special guest with us, Emily. So she's going to introduce herself now.
Yes, I'm Emily. I am a graduate student in choral conducting at Georgia State University. Before I was at Georgia State, I taught choir for 7 years in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and sang in the Chattanooga Bach Choir, so I sang a lot of Bach. I am a casual Bach enthusiast. I am intimidated to talk about him, sort of, because there are so many scholars on him, but, you know, I'm an enthusiast and I love him, so.
Yeah, they're boring.
It's all you need. They're boring. I know, get John Elliott Gardner on here, but you know, you could get him, but you have me.
Yes, and we're thankful to have you. Thank you for coming on the show.
It is crucial to approach this content with an open mind, respect for boundaries, and an understanding of consent. Thank you for your understanding, and we hope that you find value, education, respectful insights from episodes of this podcast. As usual, all of our sources can be found on our website at MusicaliTeaPodcast.com if you want to fact check or learn more information. So before we get into the tea, we need to give a brief summary of who is J.S. Bach.
All right. So to give a brief summary about this man is kind of impossible, but I will do my best. So he was born to Johann Ambrosius Bach, who was also a organist, and to Maria Elisabeth Limmerhirt in 1685. It should be known that the Bach family was very famous in Germany at this time. They were all known as musicians. Bach was not the first Bach. He had many Bachs before him, and he had many Bachs after him. He was orphaned at the age of 10 and then went to live with his brother, Johann Christoph, who also was a musician. He took clavier and organ lessons. There's also evidence that he started composing at the age of 15, but there's unusually nice voice until it broke. And then they just had him singing octaves in the choir, which I found pretty funny. And it was presumed until his voice fully changed that he stayed on perhaps as a strings player for the school. Bach actually started as a violinist and then moved on to organ. After he left the school, he was the organist in Arnstadt and Mulhausen. He accepted so this is one of my favorite Bach stories. He was in charge of renovating the organ. But when the organ was completed, Bach was actually the first one to play it, and people at the church heard him. And they offered him the job. He literally went behind Werner's back and stole the position from him.
I would kind of feel some type of way about that. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, I would feel a way too if I was Andreas. But me today, I'm like, thank God he stole that job, because would we have Bach today? Who knows? Maybe.
That's true. You gotta do what you gotta do.
You gotta go to capitalism. But this is also the time period where he made his famous trek to Lubeck to hear Buxtehude. So Buxtehude at the time was known for never leaving. He never traveled anywhere. He just stayed in his church in Lubeck. And so people had to travel to hear him, and Bach was determined to do that. The church actually complained that he spent too much time away in Lubeck, and that his accompaniment and also his accompaniments were too elaborate for congregational singing. He kind of got an attitude about this, and he was like, peace out, because he wanted to do exactly what he did in Lubeck. Also, he married his cousin at this time. That was not uncommon. Maria Barbara Bach. They actually had the same last name, which is a little creepy. Wow. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. And wow. Yes. And this was actually when he moved on to Mulhausen. And he also started composing a lot of his cantatas. In Mulhausen is where he played for the reigning Duke of Weimar, Wilhelm Ernst, and he was offered the position on his court on the spot, and he immediately submitted his resignation. And then but he left Mulhausen on good terms, and he wrote a cantata for them before leaving. Also, we get the first Bach baby, the first one of many. So when he was in Weimar, he remained there for 7 years. This was in 1708. He remained there for 9 years, not 7 years. But he left in 1717. That's why I said 7 years. After not being appointed the Kapellmeister. In this period in Weimar, we get most of his secular and instrumental music. It was his secular and instrumental era. It actually took a while for him to settle in, and he had some time on his hands, so he became friends with Telemann in this time period. Telemann, it actually was the godfather to one of his children. I thought that was fun. We also get his prison era in this time period, which we won't talk about yet. In 18, not 18, oh my gosh, he became a classical composer now. No, I'm just kidding. In 1720, his wife died, and he did not wait. Because then in 1721, he married Anna Magdalena Wilken, the 20-year-old daughter of a court trumpeter, which is fun.
Is it fun?
It wasn't for Anna. It wasn't.
Oh, it was not for Anna, no.
It was not for
I don't know, though. It probably was for her just because, like, let's be real, at this time period, it probably was her only option. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but
women
he was like,
at this
what,
time.
50 by this time? He's up there.
1720? He was born in 1685? I don't know. I'm bad at math. Don't ask me to do that.
That's more than 50? No. 80, 90.
45?
0, 1, 2, 45.
He was 45.
Okay.
Well, at this time, actually, that was pretty common, though, back then for men, because he had an established career, and he had money.
Yeah.
So it was pretty, and she was the daughter of a musician. So.
I'm not saying she's a gold digger, but
yeah. He's still broke.
Yeah, he was not known for actually being that good with his money. Mainly because he was, okay, we're not there yet, but in Leipzig, we'll get there. He loved hiring musicians. That was his thing. So he became dissatisfied with his life in Köthen because the new ruler, the new Duke of Weimar's wife, did not show much interest in music. So he applied for a position at the Thomas Kirche in Leipzig in 1722. He actually wasn't selected for the position, but the chosen candidate, Graupner, withdrew, and then Bach was appointed, which I think is fun. Yeah. Second best, but also we get, the universe works out for those who wait, I guess. I don't know. So, some kind of thing, because, we get Bach. So he was his position was actually Kantor at the Thomas Kirche, the director of music in Leipzig. And he was the most important musician in town. He was primarily responsible. Some people just associate Bach with the Thomas Kirche, but he actually was responsible for the music at the 4 principal churches in Leipzig. Thomas Kirche, Nikolai Kirche, Matthäus Kirche, or the Neue Kirche, and Petri Kirche. And one of his positions that was important, particularly at St. Thomas, was the Thomas Schul boys choir. They're still going today. It's one of the most famous choirs in the world. And he was responsible for music classes at the school. And he also provided music for every Sunday, feast days, and any significant thing that was happening. The town council actually controlled the position, not the churches. And he also remained at the church, but because the town council controlled everything, he kind of had many disputes with them. He did not get along with the town council all the time, particularly, as I said before, he loved to hire musicians. But in this time period, we get his discography got fat. Not him, but his discography. So more than two,
maybe.
Well, actually, if you've seen like the portraits, he gradually kind of gets a little,
just a little.
Listen, he was getting older. He was getting older. So he had more than 250 church cantatas. He had a cantata for the entire church year. He also had his best compositions ever written in this time period. St. Matthew's Passion Elaborate, which I find hilarious.
That is funny. Thank you for that very brief, basically summary of his life. Like, I feel like I knew all I need to know at this point. I'm just kidding.
Yay!
There's so much more to nitpick about for sure, but like I definitely learned more.
Yeah, it's always funny. Yeah, these are just snapshots. It's funny we could talk about his character. You almost have to have 5 episodes for Bach. TBH.
Pretty much. And we'll have to revisit. And it's like you said earlier that there's just like so many scholars that their entire life work is to like researching the life of Bach. So we could literally go on all day. But you did a really good job.
Yeah.
So now into the drama. So I think let me not assume, but I do think most people, both musicians and non-musicians, are familiar with the name Bach, and we all have like this idea of who Bach was, right? no matter if you've played an instrument or not, or sang or not. But I feel like a lot of times, especially when we're talking about people who lived hundreds of years ago, we speak about them with such reverence, which we should, but sometimes we forget that, you know, they had regular lives as well to some extent. Like they had drama that they were dealing with. They had like, you know, like mundane things, I guess you could say. So with someone like Bach, who's been studied so much, the story we're about to get into is like so mind-blowing to me because I certainly knew absolutely nothing about it. So now we're gonna talk about Bach and the time he got arrested.
Yay.
That's not funny. So basically, around 1717, George Philip Telemann was taking up all the job offers. And Emily, you mentioned this earlier, but I knew Telemann because I played all of his 12 Fantasias and he wrote a lot of music for flute, but he was kind of the it guy around the time that Bach was trying to find a job. So slay Telemann. Okay. And I was surprised to know that Bach wasn't the most recognized, and he really wasn't that recognized to the extent he is now until after he died. But the Ducal Chapel at Gotha had made overtures to Telemann earlier in 1717, hoping that he would accept the post of Kapellmeister. And Emily, can you just like explain very quickly what a Kapellmeister is for those who don't know?
It's so it pretty much means like master of the chapel, you know, in charge of the church music. Usually they did organ, but they also were in charge of the choirs. And also in this time period, it would have included a bit of composition.
Good. So they were trying to secure Telemann as Kapellmeister of the chapel. And this is a job that Bach himself like really would have liked to have. So Telemann actually turned down the job in favor of his long-term position in Frankfurt. And it's reported that Bach's disappointment at the Duke passing him over for promotion in favor of Telemann was intense. So they say. I don't actually know because I wasn't there, but maybe, I don't know. He was like second choice, I guess, maybe, but at least he got chosen eventually. Mm-hmm. So basically he didn't get that job, but August Bach, wait, hold on. Why did I say August? Who's August?
Who is August Bach?
So his current employer definitely did not want Bach to go anywhere, even though he snubbed him originally for the role of Kapellmeister. So he was not going to let him go find a similar job somewhere else. So this confrontation is actually what led to Bach's arrest and imprisonment, setting somewhat of a dramatic precedent in Weimar.
Yeah, I know. We don't say his name right.
No. So an example of this precedent that was set to, from Bach's arrest was Duke Wilhelm. His successor, August Ernst, had to deal with a troublesome horn player's resignation. And unfortunately, the musician was sentenced to 100 lashes and prison time. And when he was caught, or when they were caught escaping prison, they hanged him. So,
oh my gosh.
It's just like actually ridiculous. I know we talked about this before already. Like, it's really not that shocking because I've told you this is what happens. But like, this is just like actually insane to me. And, you know, the particular article I was reading about this described the horn player as troublesome. I'm like, were they troublesome or did they just question dumb rules?
Yeah, for real.
Like, what defined troublesome for me? And then when they actually did try to resign, you were like, no, actually. And essentially killed him, like led to the death of this horn player. So thankfully, though, for us, Bach wasn't sentenced to death. He was just in prison for just under 4 weeks, and very little is known about what Bach's prison actually looked like. I'd be willing to say it looks like absolutely nothing the American prison system does, because this was like absolutely a hot mess that I'm not going to get into. But yeah, so that's the story. I was thrown in jail.
So while Bach was in prison, he was very productive, which is not surprising because he is an Aries sun and an Aquarius moon, and that is a fire combination. The air of the Aquarius just, you know, sets the fire of the air is on fire, and that was him. And he actually rattled off probably 2 keyboard exercises, and one was the Orgelbuchlein, which was 46 chorale preludes for organ. And then he also may have composed the Well-Tempered Clavier. I made that French. Clavier. He's not French, he's German. Clavier. Oh. Anyway, the Well-Tempered Clavier, which was, this one was a lot. This one was 2 sets of preludes and fugues and 24, and all 24 major and minor keys on the keyboard. So that was his productive era. So we think that Ernst Ludwig Gerber, whose the father had been Bach pupil in the 1720s, believed that parts of the Well-Tempered Clavier had been written by Bach because he was bored and depressed and without an instrument. So he sort of imagined. The idea that he could construct even the most complex counterpoint simply in his head has become one of the most intriguing sides of Bach, both as a person and as a composer. So it's interesting that he was able to do that, kind of not even just understanding how it would sound on his fingers, even though he couldn't hear it with his ears. And I think that's pretty fascinating. And it also proves, to his genius in general.
Yeah, because there's only a few composers after him that we know that did that, right? There's Mozart could do that.
Mozart, Beethoven, of course, Beethoven. Yeah, Beethoven could definitely.
Beethoven had no choice. he had no choice.
Anyway, but also part of it was also you could do a whole podcast episode on just the math found in Bach's music as well. He just was also a mathematician and just kind of knew how to compose in such a way that it kind of made sense. It was musical for him, but also very scientific. So yeah.
Nice.
But after his release, he settled into his new role in Curtin, where he would write some of his most famous instrumental music, including the suites for solo cello, sonatas, and partitas for solo violin, the Brandenburg concertos, and the English suites. He had fat discography, okay?
Man, that Brandenburg could also be it. I love Brandenburg.
Literally, does anyone have a fatter discography than Bach?
Actually, John Dowland, but we won't get into that.
Wait.
Yes. Anyway, continue. John Dowland.
The English composer?
Yeah. Okay. That was me playing the lute.
British. Why did I know that?
How could you not know? I don't know. Because John Dowland also sounds very English, but anyway, continue. But he has I'm kidding. I think Bach probably beats him in varied genres and styles, but he does have a lot. The joke is that he has anyway, continue. Yeah. Okay. He's the emo kid of the Renaissance. Anyway.
It's not just a phase.
Literally, he's so depressing. He's such a stereotype. He's literally, yes. John Dowland is the emo kid of the Renaissance, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Anyway, yes. Okay, that's going to be a new episode, though.
Yeah, we got to do an episode about that. You're coming back.
And he's going to have the emo hair. Okay, whatever.
Actually, anyway. Yes.
In love with the emo.
Write that down. Write that down.
Write it down.
Okay. Anyway. But just 4 years later, he was starting to look elsewhere again. He became dissatisfied with life in Curtin. So Bach's hunt for a new job eventually took him to Leipzig in 1723 as music director and cantor of St. Thomas Church in Leipzig. And there he remained for the rest of his life. The end. Just kidding. We're going to talk about his music now. So all week I've had, that song Criminal by Britney Spears?
Baby, I'm in love with a criminal.
You should totally do a cover of it, Joycelyn.
I should?
There's a flute in it. I didn't know there was a flute at the beginning.
I've never actually heard that song.
That's awesome.
In the break, when we started talking about Bach being a criminal, that song has been stuck in my head since then. And then I listened to it and I'm like, Joycelyn should totally cover this.
I should. I gotta look that up now. I've never heard that song on
awesome.
Okay.
I would play it, but I don't want to be demonetized by Britney.
Yeah. Because Britney deserves her coins, okay?
Yeah, she does.
The family tried to take all of them. Okay.
Okay, well, I chose to listen to and study Prelude and Fugue in E flat major, which has BWV number 552. And I'm gonna be honest, it was just a random choice. I literally I went on Google and I was like, pieces by Bach. And then Because like obviously I know like toccata and fugue. I know like the big ones, you know, that you hear.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something like never heard before, and it had a lot of views on YouTube. So I listened to it. And it was, I mean, again, like I'm not a keyboard player. And then of course, like my instrument was not relevant to Bach, but I have a whole theory on that anyway.
What is that theory?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, what if he dreamed about you before?
Okay, not that, but like I feel that if Bach had heard the sweet, sweet sound of a saxophone, he totally would have written for it. Absolutely.
That's not
Absolutely.
a bad theory.
Sarah.
That's a good theory.
I don't know, Sarah. I feel like Bach would be like, it's too loud.
No, because once
he loved the trumpet.
But okay, but the trumpet was never giving like back then what the trumpet was given today.
I mean, yeah, that's true.
Like it was
but
not...
also the saxophone back then would have be ish the same. I don't know.
But he was also writing for organ, and organ was like decibels above what people should even hear. Okay,
that's valid.
Yeah.
That's a valid
organ
point.
is so loud. Saxophone would not even compare. But like, if he had heard it,
if you had 10 saxophones, perhaps.
I did play toccata and fugue in D minor with like 10 saxophones, and it does.
Did y'all play that at GSU like
last
fall or something?
That is so funny.
2 years ago, because I played Barry on that one, but like,
okay,
it was so freaking hard though, which is why I'm actually kind of glad he didn't know what a saxophone was, because like it was gonna be so hard. Anyway, that's not even.
He was gonna have y'all struggling to breathe too, just like the flutes.
Yeah.
And singers, let's be real. Yeah. I mean, I will say singers. Well, yeah, but singers do have. So, okay, I don't know if flute does this. Can we talk about Baroque articulation for 5 seconds?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay, so I don't know if it's this way for instruments.
Yes,
okay, actually, don't get out. Like, leave. But like for singers, a Baroque articulation is that you lift on the dot. So, like, if you have something, it's da 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 da. So it's kind of it's not a breath, it's a loop pausa. So it's very quick, but it is like that's an articulation. You do it for all Baroque music. I mean, is it not that way for instruments?
Yeah, we do that.
You do that. Okay, I didn't know if that helped with breathing. That helps me with breathing. At least in the choirs it does.
I mean, you can kind of sneak it in, but the thing is, like with flute,
but you guys have other stuff you have to worry about.
Yeah, it's like, and there's a lot of notes, and you never want to be running low on air when your fingers are having to move that fast, number one. But also, like, if you take like a wind instrument, for example, that's really not enough time to get a good breath. Like you're basically like teaching yourself to take little pockets here and there, but you can't make them super noticeable as if to break the phrase. So like how you were singing it, like I don't know if you were breathing, but it didn't sound like you were breathing at all. Like it was just like a slight stop and then you start back. But like that's not really enough time to take a breath or like a good breath, you know. But we do that. Yeah, that's why I hate Bach, because it's basically like you get one good breath when you start the piece and you get one good one after like a fermata and then you end the piece and like that's it. That's all you got.
I mean, my piece, it was just like, you know, it was 15 minutes long and there was a lot of information coming at me all at once. It was a little overstimulating at times, I'm not gonna lie. But I was reading more about the piece too, and it was most likely written in D major, but then Bach transposed it to E flat, which I think Emily mentioned Johann Sebastian earlier, but you know, he theorized about like key characteristics. And so he stated in 1731 that E flat was a beautiful and majestic key, which I totally agree. I love E flat. And so it makes sense. Like with many commentators about the piece, they theorized that it was based off of the Holy Trinity. So like you have the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. And then with 3 flats, it's also represented in the themes. Like there are 3 main themes. You have A, B, C. And so it's just like this group of 3, which didn't really change the way I looked at it, but it was good to know. Because like I said, it was a lot going on all at once, which is common for organ music. But it's considered his longest piece for organ. Highly recommend.
Cool.
Give it maybe 4 stars.
Gotta be fun to play too, I can imagine. Like if it's that much going on, it's just like that much to be like, oh my gosh, this is actually genius how this all fits together. So
yeah. You would need some real metronome work with that one, that's for sure. It's just like fast, like the whole time. In 15 minutes, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't want to play that.
Fight the urge to compress those 16th notes.
I mean, I will be honest, organist brains are different. They just are in a good way. They have spicy brains.
I don't talk to any organist. I gotta have a conversation with one.
They are fun. They're a fun group. You will understand they are built different. Their brains are just.
Right. What about you, Emily?
So my fave is okay. Let me start. I love Bach. So I have a lot of opinions about a lot of Bach. I do think, for me, my favorite is the St. Matthew's Passion. But I also think the B minor mass is the pinnacle of Western music. People will fight me. I don't give a shit.
Not a pinnacle of Western.
It is.
What a bold statement.
The pinnacle of Western music. I don't give a. It is. It uses all the techniques. You could also say perhaps Beethoven's Ninth is. I don't even think that, because I think B minor mass is the pinnacle of Western music. There you go.
Emily, you remember when we got into a very heated text argument about romantic versus Baroque music?
Yes!
Is that really turning into that? Because you were like, Baroque is better. I'm like, Bestie,
no!
It is!
No! It is! I don't like romantic music is bombastic. I hate it.
This call right now. Take it back.
I don't hate it. That's not true. I'm being dramatic right now. I don't hate romantic music. I struggle with, this is my thing as a singer. I'm gonna get yelled at for this. I don't like opera. I don't like it. I'm not an opera person. I am a arts choir person. So when you get to romantic, I just don't think so. I think that the romantic period, oh God, this is getting into classism. I think the romantic period, I know that romantic period is supposed to be where music comes to the people, where you get Kunst Religion and music is liberated from the churches and it's put into the hands of the people in the concert hall. But you also start seeing a lot of classism in music and romantic period as well. Even though a lot of the composers themselves were significantly poor, like Schubert, what he was doing, So you see that, but you also start seeing the obsession with the celebrity, and that, I don't know. To me, when you get more into those things, that's when you start losing the community of music, and I care about community music. I don't know. You can go many ways with this.
I'm gonna tear the romantic period up every time. Every time.
Well, I was listening to Reinberger today, and that was good. So
it's just any piece. Well, I like a lot of contemporary flute music, but pretty much the only flute music I love is from the Romantic era, or the Romantic era.
I do love the Impressionists.
Yeah,
the Impressionists can ache.
It depends. Maybe just as a spectator, I'm okay with that, but I don't like to play.
You watch on the outside.
Yeah,
you're I don't want to participate.
The Impressionists, that stuff is hard. It's just I don't know. It's hard.
It is hard singing. The art, just the vocal art songs from the period are really tough.
It's really
but they're fun. So I'm a part of this book club about random people. It's just a bunch of random people that I've never met before. And this one guy that was there, I don't even know I guess he just wanted a date night with his wife. So he was like, yeah, I went to the ASO before. He was like, oh, except I hate that. I'm going to say the B word. Can I curse?
Yes.
Okay. He literally says, but no, it's important because it made me mad. He's like, but I don't really like that Natalie. No, I don't like that new they got.
Oh.
And this was at a book club? Someone said this?
This is at a book club. He was random. And I was like, oh, why don't you like her? I was like, is he into music? And he was like, well, she was conducting this one piece and it was all about Jesus for 3 hours and no one got hit. What? And he was like, it was just a button and Jesus just kept singing and he wouldn't stop and she wouldn't stop conducting. And I was like, and then it ended. I thought it ended, but it was just a intermission. And he's like, I just left. And I was like, what did you see? And I realized he was talking about Bach's St. Matthew's Passion.
Yeah, I was like, it's got to be St. Matthew's Passion.
But he thought because it said Passion, he thought it was going to be the Passion of the Christ.
I'm screaming because I was like, is that piece even
was like, and he thought that Natalie Strickland was like super Christian. He literally thought that she was like evangelizing to Atlanta. He was like, she was just trying to give us Jesus. It was wild. Anyway, but yeah,
That actually like pisses me off. Like, I don't want to say anything.
It made me when he said that. Called her that, like there were some other things he had said, but that one I was like, I'm like, why? This is weird. Okay, yeah.
It's the audacity for me.
Like just the fact that he wrote out like that. Anyway,
I was just working on that excerpt like 2 days ago too. The St. Matthew's Passion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like every other Bach I've ever
Okay, this is what you should listen to. I got you. No, wait. I have it. I have what you need to listen to. I'm sorry, I had to interrupt you. You should listen to Chris Thiele's partita on mandolin. His partitas on mandolin. That's what you should listen to.
I do like them
because they are amazing. But yeah, I also love Cantata BWV 61 Nu kommt der Heiden Heiland. That one. I just love that chorale in general. So I do have to throw that one out there.
I will say I could listen to Bach chorales pretty much all day. I do love a good Bach chorale.
I mean, the same like the Sacred Head and Down Wounded chorale is amazing,
beautiful.
The alto part is.
Yeah, he really popped off on that.
He really did.
I mean, he popped off in general, but like, I will say, because like how you said, Sarah, like it was just like overstimulating at times. Like Bach's instrumental music can really feel like that, like performing and listening. But it's just something about a Bach chorale that is it's very soothing to just, I don't know, it feels like heavenly. I was like a bad word to describe, but like, yeah.
No, there's a lot of people that like, I mean, I've said this before, and this is a lot. When I say this, people are like, wow. It's like, if I ever struggle with faith or like my opinions of Christianity and such, I'm not going to lie. Like Bach in a way proves to me that there is something out there bigger than us. Like it's kind of hard to describe, but like, I really feel that from Bach's music. Like he just, for some reason he grasps like his music just grasps like the sound of eternity, and I think that's really fascinating. It's like a lot of people that struggle with faith will sometimes see that, and then they'll hear, like you said, like a Bach chorale, and there's something about it that just makes you believe in something bigger than yourself. And I don't really know what it is or why. It's amazing. But
yeah, there's got to be some sort of science behind it, but I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So for Bach, the piece that I would consider my favorite is Sonata in E major. This is one that I played for my senior recital of undergrad. Yeah, my senior recital of undergrad. And I mean, I just really fell in love with it. It follows that same typical form that you see, like the
a sonata.
A sonata. It follows sonata form. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. You're like so fast. Who
would have thought a sonata follows sonata form?
I was like, so a sonata.
Revolutionary, really. I'm gonna edit that out. But yeah, it's a really beautiful flute sonatas. All of the Bach flute sonatas are really, really beautiful, I think. And my favorite thing about it, and I guess you could say Baroque music in general, is that no two performances are ever the same, which is nice. Like there's always some different elaboration that's added, or like different articulation or ornamentation. It's just like kind of nice because you never quite know what you're gonna get. But so that was my piece. Yeah, so if you're interested in any of the pieces we've mentioned here right now and any of our other favorites by Bach, we will have them, of course, on our Bach a Criminal Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube playlists. Okay, Sarah, take us home.
I already said that he died, so I'll just read
it. He did die. That's definitely not a question.
Okay, well, spoiler alert, Bach died in 1750, which literally marks the end of an era, the Baroque era. We mentioned earlier that Bach wasn't recognized as much until after he died, but during his lifetime, fewer than a dozen of his compositions were printed. And 50 years after his death, this was changed when in 1801, the Well-Tempered Clavier was issued. Or if you're French, the Well-Tempered Clavier.
That was funny.
Bach had a revival, which is possibly dated with the March 11th, 1829 performance of the St. Matthew Passion conducted by Mendelssohn. And he had a bunch of kids. 21.
20, not 21.
21 if you include August, but
if you include August Bach that randomly showed up.
It's not canon, so we can't say that.
It's not canon yet. Now I'll never get it wrong again, though. I'll always know it's 20. I'll never
not 21 because of August.
Yes.
So he had some kids who were composers. Some notable ones were JC. I almost said John Collins, sorry. Johann Christian. No one is going to know who John Collins is. I'm just going to do
I do.
You know who John Collins is?
After I looked him up, yeah.
Only that's my JC.
Not Jesus Christ. I don't know.
Well, I guess him too, but
you said GC and you said a John Collins joke, and I say GC, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. I don't know.
That makes sense. And CPE, Carl Philip Emanuel, who specifically likes to write music for the flute, and I played, fun fact, as my audition repertoire into college.
Cute. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I did not play it right because I've never studied Baroque music in my life. So looking back now, I'm like, what in the world was I thinking?
I think we all have that whenever we're auditioning for college, though. So don't feel too bad. Yeah, but it's okay. Baroque music is tough if you really don't know what you're doing because there are so many rules. CPE has a really good Magnificat. I do want to throw that out there. I feel like I should say that.
Oh.
The only ones that I really listen to are CPE and JS.
I agree.
I don't actually listen to JC that much.
I don't listen to JC either.
I don't even know what JC really is.
I can't even name a single JC. Can you, Sarah?
No.
Sonata number 1. I'm sure he has one.
Yeah, like Sonata in C.
Yeah, I think he has some like keyboard stuff.
Yeah, I think he was more keyboard for sure. But yeah, so he had a little dynasty, a little music dynasty. This is cute.
He had that dog in him.
Essentially 20 kids, like, oh my
20
gosh.
kids. You were talking about like, what did you say in the beginning? You were like, composers have real life, whatever.
Yes.
And then I was like, and they also like to make babies. I was like, they go to prison. I like Bach.
Bach got out of prison and got to work.
Yes, he did.
Those 4 weeks.
He was working
He
before.
was like,
I think I saw that one of his descendants is still alive.
Oh,
I also saw that. Was there like a New York Times article about that recently?
Gotta be old.
I don't know.
They're saying he has no known descendants. Like maybe not the Bach name.
What a guy.
I wanted to call Bach. Hold on, sorry. I wanted to call Bach like, is he like the granddaddy? I don't know.
What do you want to call him? What?
You wanted to call him
like,
granddaddy?
I've never heard that. He's like the granddaddy of music or something.
Bach came to us and said
the year is actually still granddaddy. Why do you gotta do that, sir? Okay, I feel like that definitely is a thing. Like people say Bach is like the granddaddy of
Bach.
Heard what I'm talking
the
about?
father.
I mean, I think he is. I don't even know if he's the father because no one ever really does what he does. You know what? Even his sons. You may have like CPE kind of does what he does, but there are no other composers from the Baroque period that really tear it up like him. He's kind of like outside of the realm of, in my opinion, like of any other composer at this time period.
I know, but I'm just saying maybe he's the granddaddy of classical music or something.
I mean, when he died, that's when the classical music period is counted as starting. 1750.
I just feel like at some point I heard Bach referred to as granddaddy of something, but
okay,
something.
I'm gonna look it up. You're ruining my Google algorithm right now.
I'm so sorry.
LOL.
I can't believe I just typed that. Wait, no, that is. Yeah.
The granddaddy of what?
New Classical FM. They said the granddaddy of them all, celebrating the birth of J.S. Bach.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Sarah, for validating me and my.
I'm not validating you. I'm just
calling Bach the granddaddy of something.
I'm not calling
Classic FM.
Yeah, it was like Classical FM or something. Well, you can keep calling him that.
I mean, I'm not. I'm just saying that's a thing. I just said that's a thing. Have you guys seen the things where people like when they pray, they say like "Daddy God"?
Yes, Abba God. Yes, I went to university.
Yes,
that is like a big deal among like Pentecostal charismatic circles.
Because
they want God to seem more on earth. Yeah, we would be in prayer circles when we would hear that. It was interesting. That's like not a podcast topic for today, though. That was another podcast topic.
We should do a deconstruction podcast.
That's a lot to unpack.
We could talk about like the Reformation with Mendelssohn or something. Like
You know about the Reformation. Luther also wrote hymns.
Luther, yeah, that'd be good too. Yeah, Martin, not Luther
Martin. Just kidding. He's not French.
I can't talk about nobody French. I'm sorry because I cannot pronounce anything in French. Like I can't, other than bonjour. That's all I got.
That was good.
Au revoir.
Okay, that was not that good.
Yeah.
That was a little sus, actually.
Au revoir.
I hope you all learned a lot on today's episode. Special thanks to Emily for sharing all of her knowledge with us about J.S. Bach and his life and legacy in a very condensed form, which we will probably have to double back to, but no time in the next few months. So thanks, Emily, for that. But we hope you learned a lot today and maybe, I don't know, found a new piece that might be your fave for the week or so. Shout out to all you guys who listened to last week's episode and were super supportive about that. Like, really warmed both of our hearts. So thank you so much for listening to us, and we hope you made you giggle. Emily,
I know.
Stop. No, just kidding.
And I'm gonna get canceled because I'm not a Bach scholar talking about Bach. They're gonna be like, "What the?"
And I'm gonna come for all of them because first of all, get a life. Second of all,
get a life. It's like it's Bach's dad. You know,
what is he gonna do? He's gonna come up out of his ashes and say something like,
what is that meme? What is that like silly thing where they're like, Bach may not hear you, but you know what I'm saying? Because he's dead. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
We're like, he may not see this comment, but their ex will see the comment. You know what I'm no? Okay.
Oh
yeah,
like,
I do
you know what I'm
saying?
Like people are gonna come for me and they're gonna be like, Bach may not see your comment, but Emily will see it.
Listen, I think you supported your claim. They can argue with the wall. Like, I don't care.
Oh, well.
I'm not about to be arguing with some 65-year-old Bach scholar about whatever from like 500 years ago, respectfully. So I don't know why I said 60 something. That is so disrespectful. I'm sorry.
That was very specific.
You definitely have an image of a person in your head while you're saying that.
No, because you know when you go through like classic FM's comment sections and they're just like all old people with really, really dated takes sometimes, and it's just like please go touch some grass. Like it's never that deep. Yeah. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know exactly. We know exactly. That's why I said it, because I have to worry about it.
Yeah, I want to keep that in too.
I was like waiting for you to dox somebody because you said 65, white male, 5 foot.
I'm looking at you at whatever your Instagram handle
you gave a
blue tie.
You sounded like a Criminal Minds episode. Like you were like listing a profile. I was like, who are you talking about?
Channeling my inner Derek Morgan.
Busting down doors.
Yeah, no, that'll never be me. I'll turn into Spencer Reed at that point. But I'm not doing none of that field work. When Spencer's like, oh, I need a gun, I'm like, you know what? I'll wait in the car. It's okay, guys. I'll be in the car. Gotcha. I'm the brains.
Wheels up in 30.
Yeah, I'll be on the plane with y'all. I'll meet you back at the jet. How about that?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's today's episode. We hope you enjoyed, and see you all next time for what's our next episode, Sarah? Did we even decide?
Was it Debussy was a city boy? Is that what
it was? Debussy was a city boy. As we talk about Debussy and
Debussy,
yeah, and how he was a city boy.
Well, I just want to say thanks for having me.
Is
that what they say at the
end? You're our first guest, so you get to decide.
What? Get to decide what?
What to say. You're the first one. You're setting a precedent, Emily.
This is really intimidating. Thank you for having me on your show. I thought about like setting like a box tune really quick. Thank you, Joycelyn and Sarah. But I sing the alto parts, so I don't really know the melody. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll write you a melody and play it on the flute. How about that?
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, but seriously, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, that's today's episode. We'll see you guys next time on MusicaliTea. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.